Good morning, everybody. It's Tuesday, April 15th, and this is the AgYield War Room. I'm Dan Dempsey, and I'll be moderating today's session. As always, if you got any questions or comments, please feel free to drop us a line in the chat area, and we'll be sure to get to it during the show. Overnight markets are at May corn up a half at 485.5. May soybeans down 7.5 at 1034.25, and May Chicago wheat was down 3.25 at 544.25. This morning, we had an export sales announcement of 110,000 metric tons of corn to Portugal. This is for 24-25. Yesterday afternoon, crop progress and conditions were released. Corn's 4% planted. That's versus 2% last week. And 5% is the average there. Soybeans, 2% planted. That's right in line with the 5-year average of 2% as well. And winter wheat crop ratings, 47% good to excellent. That was up a little bit from last week's 46% and above the 5-year average of 44%. Good morning, guys. A couple of things this morning. It was announced China is halting the purchase of jets, parts, and equipment from Boeing. So, I guess another sign of that they're digging in or going to continue to dig in on this fight. So I guess not really that positive news that we're looking for there. Dow's down 40 in the outside markets. Outside of that, nothing real fresh in the way of new tariff news that's been announced. So I guess, Dustin, maybe share a few thoughts on just what you saw with price action yesterday. I know there were bear spreading was pretty prevalent. But other than that, what's on your mind?
Yeah, so bear spreading prevalent. I think I noted this yesterday, but like D's 26 corn has had a heck of a move here, basically back up to the highs of the move. Still D's 25 still lagging, and I think that makes total sense given the acreage report. We're expecting above 95 million acres of corn. We still have a relatively low ratio. We've got good weather for planting. So, good chance that we do get quite a bit of corn acres. And then it's just mentality too. If China is digging in, I think that's more of a bean problem than it is a corn problem. We virtually didn't see any corn purchases like we've had in the last couple of years from China. They've been our primary bean market for a while now, decades. So if we're talking about the risk of a trade war, it's probably going to be greater for beans than corn from the eyes of the grower, I'd imagine. That's not necessarily how it's going to turn out, right? It could turn out the other way, is that during the planting window, we assume a trade war, we plant too many corn acres, and then we announce some sort of phase 1 trade deal adherence plan with them, right? That's a possible outcome. And in that case, beans could be explosive. So I'm not trying to predict the outcome. I'm just kind of trying to explain what's happening right now. I think that we are going to get a number of corn acres in 2025, which would lead to fewer corn acres out of natural rotation into 2026, and that could explain some of this recent rise in the 26 contract. But also, if you're just thinking about multi-year, phase 1 type trade deals on a mini scale across all of these 75 countries that are negotiating with the U.S., if they're already buyers of U.S. corn, like let's say Japan, for example, it's not too far-fetched to believe that along with any trade deal announcements that we may be making with them on tariffs, there may also be, some sort of purchase agreements also being announced at the same time.
Very good. Ben, what's on your mind this morning?
Just yesterday, not shocking that we had a pullback. It was a very low volume day in both corn and beans. You wonder if this was this big rally was people that got stuck trying to sell on trade war, or it's the beginning of something bigger. And I think over the next few days we'll figure that out. I still don't know why anyone would want to be short old crop corn, and you wrestle that with what looks to be a pretty good window for planning. There is a pretty big system coming across the Ohio River Valley again, and how far east it goes will certainly have an impact on us. But I wouldn't be surprised to have another light volume day in the grains.
Very good. Jace, any thoughts?
No, I like volume yesterday. I think Ben kind of nailed it, right? Like I'm kind of watching currency moves. Like the dollar index had an inside trading range day yesterday as well. So it seems like we've had so much volatility in a short amount of time that the markets seem to be taking a little bit of a break. Equity markets, just all markets in general. Until the next flow of news, right? And we're getting drips of it here and there. So no, I don't have, like Ben said, right? We got kind of a dry week across the belt through this week, and then some rains expected over the weekend, early next week for some areas. So I imagine guys are just going to be kind of keeping their head down and rolling and getting their first chunk of stuff in, until rain comes. So yeah, I'm kind of expecting a slow trade as well.
Yeah. So Justin, it's interesting. Jason and I and the guys were talking early this morning. With the kind of for lack of a better term, the continued escalation, which I'll call it continued escalation, right? You start halting purchases of jets and parts and equipment and things of that nature. There's like this impression that maybe they've been preparing to dig in, on this deal. And that can't be, I guess that's a little disconcerting to me. Like I would have thought that they would have been like, let's talk, let's roll. And it doesn't appear to be that way.
Yeah, I don't know how you can read either side right now. If they, for all we know, they're sitting there reading, Trump's Are the Deal book. I mean, and just trying to, throw it through their DeepSeek model and get an AI to tell them how to respond and negotiate with Trump. So, at the end of the day, if they were to dig in, I mean, their economy is going to take a massive hit. I mean, they are an exporting economy. That's what, so, and we're by far the biggest buyer. So, yeah, obviously like, other countries could take more stuff and, all those kinds of things, but there's gonna be a lot of pain either way. So yeah, I think it'd be, for me personally, it's, all these countries are talking, I think like a lot of people would like to see what do the first deals look like? Do we start getting some announcements on some that are getting done? Do they wait till they get a majority done? How is that rollout going to happen? Probably dictated by market direction. Like if things are stable, like they feel like they have more time to discuss. If things get volatile again, or they feel like they have to give the market something, they probably will. So it's it's such a tough one, and we've talked about this a lot, but every business owner that does business in overseas or China are having these massive conversations without any direction, and yeah, you just hope you get some resolve here, at least with our, you call it, kind of traditional partners, right? I think everyone would have a sigh of relief if you got some big European deals, obviously Canada, Mexico, got some of those things ironed out. I think the market would feel a lot better that, we are trying to get some things done, and it's not like crazy, right? We're not going to tear for everybody into oblivion for 4 years. So
right.
I think that's why we did stabilize last week, honestly, because it became clear that that's not really, that's not the goal. It's just, so I think that's why we're in this phase now, and we're trying to see what do those first deals look like. And I think that's why, Dustin said it again today, but, ag's been a high priority. So, I mean, for me, I try to be patient, and see what kind of deals come or don't come and what those policies look like. So it's tough. It's tough. I think market in general, right? Farmers, a lot of guys were planning yesterday. I think we talked about it yesterday in show that if you felt like you had to sell it, I think a lot of those people have. And now we're just kind of back in the middle, middle to high end of the range and just waiting.
Yeah. Nice to see some corn sales on a daily basis the last couple of days too.
Yeah. Exports inspections, I didn't talk about that, but they're expecting 1.3 and it was 1.8. Wheat was supposed to be 3 and change, and it was over 6. So
yep.
Still taking a lot. I mean, corn inspections remain rock solid, and we're selling corn to Central America. We're selling corn to like all these places that would probably traditionally be Brazil. So it just shows you how tight Brazil is until we get to the safrinha crop.
And Jace, what what were you saying about Sony this morning? I was thinking about that as Justin was talking about these countries, but
I
Sony,
just saw a headline on my phone, so I didn't actually read it. But just the announcement was that Sony was going to raise the price of their PlayStation, I believe is what they said, on all these countries besides the United States, which was kind of funny, right? So they're raising prices for tariffs with the United States, but they're going to tax all the other countries, I guess. So
it's already working.
I guess, yeah. Make America great.
Well, no, I mean, I'm assuming it could because those countries have tariffs
What I don't know.
on U.S. goods.
Because sorry, say again, Justin. Because what?
Well, if the countries are tariffing U.S. goods, you would raise the price to the other countries. Right. That's the argument for us having tariffs on China, for example, is if we are bringing components from China, we have to raise the prices to U.S. consumers to cover the cost of the tariff.
Okay. Yeah.
So wouldn't Sony be raising prices for countries that have tariffs on U.S. products?
Well, wouldn't it be? I guess I'd have to think through that. But if the U.S. is raising tariffs, I guess I don't know where Sony PlayStation is from. Japan, right? I would imagine.
Yeah, I think so.
Right.
It's a Japanese company, I think.
Japanese company. So.
Right.
Yeah,
maybe they're just
why,
trying to be awesome. I don't know.
Yeah, right. No.
Love America. Yeah.
Listen, if they want to make stuff and then not raise our prices, I'm all for it. Let's get after it.
Sounds like an arbitrage opportunity. Buy Sony PlayStations in the U.S. and sell them to everyone that's being taxed.
There's probably a Sony with two N's out of China that will be sold for cheaper.
And it'll work for 2 weeks.
Sunny.
That's what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what my kids are getting. Yeah.
They're getting a Sony with two N's.
Yeah.
Oh, man. What a world. All right, guys. We'll wrap for the morning. We got a couple minutes here till the open, but one thing to point out, we're gonna have Notebook Crush at 11 Central here today. They're looking for a number close to 197.6. So we'll take a look and see where that falls. Talk about it tomorrow morning in the War Room. Appreciate everybody that tunes in on a daily basis. If you wouldn't mind, throw us a like and certainly subscribe. Doesn't cost you anything to do so. It'll keep you up to speed on everything that's going on with AgYield. So again, thanks to everybody that supports the show. We're doing this live every day that the markets are open on X, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live, 8:15 Central Time. Appreciate the thoughts and comments here this morning, guys. It was a good show. Hope everybody has a great day. We look forward to talking to you again tomorrow.
The War Room is proudly presented by AgYield. For over 50 years, the AgYield team has provided grain marketing and risk management solutions for growers across the country. Our veteran consultants harness cutting-edge technologies to pinpoint risk, optimize market performance, and protect your farm's profitability. Discover a new approach to farm revenue management at agyield.com.
Hey guys, Jack here. Be sure to support the show by hitting the like button, leaving us a comment, and subscribing to the channel for all the latest updates. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.